today we caught up with Dr. Art at Morgan Creek Golf Course. Are you trying to sneak in 9 holes in the snow?
I'm the only Jewish middle-aged guy who doesn't golf. I mean, I think I'm going to be tossed out of my clan. I'm a doctor and I don't golf. I don't like golfing.
You're breaking a lot of rules there.
I am. I'm sure I'm in a minority of one. No, I'm out here to give a talk, actually.
Oh, good. Well, I'm sorry if I blew your cover. We can fake something in later so that you don't lose your cred.
No, if they saw me out there on the golf course, they'd know instantly that I don't golf.
Well, the viewers watching this, they'll be catching this the tail end of January. So there's some statistical percentage of the viewers who are still working on New Year's resolutions, trying to keep them. And they're usually, from what I know and from my friends, it's centered around health and healthy lifestyle. And today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about eating healthy. When I was younger and growing up, it was all about losing weight and looking good. And now the kids and teenagers from school, they bring home things about proper eating and healthy lifestyle. And I wanted to get your thoughts on how, some changes people could make, easy changes that they can keep throughout the year around eating habits.
Okay. The first thing, if I can go back a second, I want to address that thing about resolutions, because you're right. An enormous number of people have dropped off the bandwagon of whatever resolution they had because life doesn't change nearly as easily as people think they should. And I really strongly encourage those people to try again. Just because you fail doesn't mean you can't start again. And there's nothing magical about January 1st except some kind of artificial calendar kind of thing. So, you know what? If you decided to stop smoking and you started again on January 14th, and it's whatever now, end of January, go back on it. Try it again. Everybody fails. You're not alone. And the more often you try, the more likely you are to succeed. Although I suppose if you're on your 60th attempt, I'm not going to put much faith in that happening. But still, it's worth a try. I don't want to dissuade you. In terms of eating, I think it's the same thing that applies to anything I would tell people about changing their behavior. Do it in very small increments. You don't go from being somebody who has meat every night to eating tofu forever because it's January 1st and because your spouse said, hey, we're starting that. It's not going to work. You're going to hate it, and you'll change.
Plus, you have years of building that habit, right?
Absolutely. You know what? You're 45, 50, 55. You've built this lovely structure that you are now.
Lovely.
That's it. Give it some time to rebuild it into something even lovelier, and do it in small increments. If you're not a veggie eater, and you add a few veggies that you can actually tolerate into the weekly veggie allowance, you're much more likely to make it a permanent thing that lasts 6 or 9 months down the line than if you have, hey, you know what, tonight is an all-vegetarian meal. You know what, I live with a vegetarian. I know how hard it was to get me to accept that some meals a week are going to be just vegetarian. I'm a meat and potatoes guy. It's how I grew up, and it's hard to switch. The other thing is, that's really, really important, is not to put your faith into 1 or 2 foods. I can't tell you how many emails I get from people who've got some latest craze, some berry from Brazil, some, nut from Africa. And I tell you, those tribes live forever. No, they don't. They all die at 40. They're killing each other. They don't live forever. There's nothing magical about these things. If you want to add them into an overall healthy diet, then that's okay. Try it. But, to just put your faith in some berry from Brazil, doesn't cut it for me.
I did a nutrition clinic at London Drugs, and they're doing them one at every store, and they have a lot of stores, so it's going to take them from January to beginning of March. And part of the package you get is the Canada Food Guide, and I looked through it, and it's all common sense. And to me, it seems the hardest challenge is to stop your brain from telling you want to eat things and leaning more towards knowing and following through on the things you should eat. So it is really it's kind of telling your brain to kind of grow up.
But eating is common sense. I mean, where you think of any other species, nobody tells them what to eat. They go out and they do pretty well on their own. They grow fat. If we bring them up, you see all sorts of fat dogs, but only fat dogs that live with humans. Dogs in the wild are probably good weight. They eat normally, or they eat what they've been brought up to do. Humans have to be trained to eat things. That's because we've learned, to eat things that are too sweet, too salty, too fat. They taste good. Can't deny that. And you should allow those things in your diet. You're not going to, again, using salt as an example. If you have high blood pressure and somebody says go on a salt-free diet, you know how hard that is to do? I eat reduced salt foods. They just don't taste quite as good. It takes a long time to adjust your palate. So do it gradually, cut down on things that are bad for you, increase things that are good for you, and I'm sure you'll succeed. Most of us can eat healthy. The other nice thing, I was talking about the emails I get about people putting faith in things. I can't also tell you how many lovely emails I get from people who, primarily people who wanted to lose weight. It'll write me eventually saying, I heard something you said. Just got one 2 days ago saying, you know what? I listened to you one time. I don't even know what I said. I talk so much. And he said, you were making so much sense. I stopped eating junk. I started eating properly. I started exercising. I weigh 60 pounds less. I've got a ton of energy. It's the nicest email in the world. Just about anybody can do it. It's harder for lots of people than for others. We're busy. If you have 3 kids at home and you're a single parent, it's tough to make changes, and you have to accommodate that. You have to give people a lot of allowance. But everybody can do a little bit to start adjusting a bit. The other thing, actually, see, I talk so much, but I just thought of something else. I mean, we're talking about parents and kids. Another study out this week, when the week that we're filming this, showed quite clearly that for kids to be normal weight, by far the most important influence is what the kids eat at home. Not the fatty snacks, the sugar-filled snacks that they pick up at school. Those play a bit of a role in it, but much, much more important is what kids learn to eat at home.
I think that's a really good point. And I think a lot of the problems, I know I was, working, two-job household, raising kids, and a lot of times you have no time, and it's convenience. Convenience leads to lazy habits.
Well, yeah, and convenience.
It can.
And you have to make an allowance for it. You're both coming home at 6. If you're a 2-parent family, you're both coming home at 6:30. You're not going to slave over a, Mediterranean-style meal trying to make it that night. It's hard to do.
I'm not that perfect.
Yeah, and none of us are, and that's okay. So you plan ahead a little bit, or you don't worry about that meal. Other meals can make up for it. It's all a balance, and it's all over life. It's not in a very circumscribed period of time. We're in a rush. We were terrible on December 31st. We want to be perfect on January 31st. Doesn't work like that. Not for most of us.
So small changes, and don't lose faith.
Faith and focus on simple things. Plant-based foods the more of those you can add in, the better. Both because they're good and both because eventually you'll learn they'll replace other things that you're eating. That said, I love my meat. Meat's good for you. I'm not telling anybody to cut it out who likes eating it. I can't believe I couldn't adjust. Fish is fantastic. It's just a balance. And if you ask me for my advice always, if you're going to focus on anything, study after study after study shows the Mediterranean diet, which is basically more veggies, some fish, some meat, a lot of legumes. It beats every other diet in terms of nutritional.